How big is your God? I want to take you on a trip today real quick and just show you how big my God is. A couple days ago I got a weather balloon with some cameras on it and we shot it up to 100,000 feet into our atmosphere. And we wanted to get some pictures of the curvature of the earth, and we got some amazing pictures. And I want to share just a few of those with you and kind of take you on a trip throughout our universe to kind of give you some perspective on how small we are and how big our God is. So if you look at this first picture, this is just after we launched the weather balloon. It's in the parking lot, and you'll see there's an arrow pointing to a person. That's a regular guy. He's about 5'10", just regular guy looking at the weather balloon, excited that it hasn't crashed into a tree yet, because it almost did. But there's the picture. And then a couple minutes later, about 15 minutes later, a little bit higher up in the atmosphere, you get a bigger picture zoom out look. And you see an arrow, and it's pointing to the same person. You can't see him as well. He's kind of there. You can barely make him out. But nonetheless, he's still there. Then we'll go a little bit higher. And this is about as high as we can go in our atmosphere with this camera and still kind of make out that parking lot from where we launched that weather balloon. And what you'll see is an arrow pointing there. And it's really hard to see anything, but the guy is still there in that picture. So we're kind of getting pretty up high into the atmosphere. And the next picture, you zoom out a little bit further. Now this is the Earth. And you'll see the arrow pointing to Central Florida because that's where we launched from Central Florida. And that guy is still there. And you can't see him, but when we're looking at the entire Earth, obviously this one human being is really, really, really small. Before we get too far, I want to show you kind of a comparison from our sun to our Earth, to our planet. And so look at this picture. And this is just a rough estimate of how small our Earth is compared to our sun. And what's wild is our sun is this massive ball of explosions, these non-stop eruptions that are going on, very violent, scary stuff. And it's very magnificent. But when compared to the rest of the solar system and the rest of the stars, our sun is really quite average. And so if we zoom out a little bit more, this is an amazing picture. Many of you might not have seen this. This is a famous picture. It's called the pale blue dot. And if you look at where the arrow is pointing, in that light, there's a line of light. That's a flare off of the telescope lens of the Voyager that was shipped off throughout our solar system and went all the way to the end of our solar system. And the scientists controlling it had it spin around and take one last picture of Earth before it left our solar system. And that speck, that pale blue dot, is Earth. That's our entire Earth. Everything you know, everything you've seen, every person that's ever lived or ever will live on Earth is made up on that small little speck of a planet. It's amazing how small we feel all of a sudden. But I want to take you further. So if you go a little bit further out, this is our entire solar system. And you've got all the planets, and you've got the wannabe planet Pluto, and is it a planet? We don't know, but it's there nonetheless. And this is our solar system. And there's a small speck pointed to by that arrow. That's our planet Earth. And that guy is still standing in the parking lot in Central Florida looking up at the weather balloon, even though we can no longer see him and we can really kind of barely make out the Earth. And so if we go a little bit further, I don't know if you know this, but we actually have our own solar interstellar neighborhood. This is kind of like where our solar system hangs out. And so if you see our entire solar system, not just Earth, not just kind of around Earth, but our entire solar system, and you zoom out to get to our larger neighborhood, and you see this picture that's shown in front of you now, that little speck is our entire solar system. And so that arrow is pointing exactly where we're at. And so our entire solar system is crammed in that one itty bitty little dot. But we can go further. You go further. This is the Milky Way galaxy. No doubt you've heard about the Milky Way galaxy and how big this is. This thing is so big that we really don't know the exact size of it. We aren't even 100% sure of the exact structure because we can't see the whole thing. We've got a really good idea. We think this is what it looks like. And we think where this arrow is pointed is kind of a ballpark of where we're at. But yet again, it's so big we really can't truly be definitive in our answer. And what's interesting is you don't see a speck where that arrow points to. Because on this scale, if our entire neighborhood is represented in even a dot that we can see on this scale, that would be disproportionate. Our neighborhood is not that big. Compared to the Milky Way galaxy, we are not big enough. Our entire neighborhood is not big enough to be seen to scale. So we're really, really, really small. That guy standing in the parking lot in Central Florida is really, really small in this image. But I want to take you further. If you go further out, you go into our local galactic group. And so you take that big Milky Way galaxy that was so big that we weren't even represented on that in any sort of dot or anything as far as our entire neighborhood. But if you zoom out a little bit further, now we're in our local galactic group. And that little speck, that little circle, you can kind of make it out, is the Milky Way galaxy. That's the entire Milky Way galaxy. And when you compare it to the local galactic group, it's that small. And think about how small we are as a part of that. But there's even more. God's having so much fun right now. He's like, yeah, well, just wait till I get further on, because He's created such a massive universe that we can't even comprehend. And so if you go further, if you take out our entire galactic group and you zoom out a little bit more, you see the Virgo supercluster. And this is the supercluster that we're a part of. And so if you look at our entire galactic group, not just our planet, not just the Milky Way galaxy, but our entire galactic group, you see us in the center of this Virgo supercluster. We're just this little group of stars. It's real small relative to the entire supercluster. Really small. We just get smaller and smaller and smaller. And just to kind of give you a point of reference, I don't know if this helps. It's a big number that is really going to be tough to comprehend, but the entire distance across Virgo supercluster is estimated to be 100 million light years. That's a long way. You can Google that and try to imagine it however you want, but just know that it's 100 million light years wide. And I'm really excited to show you this next picture. This is a quasar cluster. And this is awesome. This is not fake. This is real. And this was just recently found in January. There was an article about scientists that they found this. And this quasar cluster is so big that it ruins a lot of the mathematics that they use to understand the solar system and the universe and the galaxy. They're just dumbfounded. They're like, we don't know what to do now. We've got to figure out how to recalculate this because this is too big. So remember, I told you the Virgo supercluster was about 100 million light years wide. And that's everything that we're a part of in our galactic group, in the Milky Way galaxy, in our neighborhood, in our solar system, in our planet, and us. Now, this cluster, this quasar cluster, is 4 billion light years wide. 4 billion. Supercluster, the Virgo supercluster, 100 million light years. This one is 4 billion light years wide. Scientists don't even know how to handle that because they thought that if they went far enough out that the universe would start making sense to them and how it's set up, and yet this has ruined everything. So now they've got to go back and they've got to start from scratch because nothing adds up anymore. Because God's like, look, I got stuff out here. You want to see some cool stuff? Look at this. He's just having fun. There's no reason for that. It does no function. There's no life that we know of. It's just there, screaming God's glory. And so I want to back you up. Look at the Virgo supercluster. That's where we're at. Remember that little area? That's where our entire galactic group is at. I want to zoom out from that Virgo supercluster. And you're going to see this local superclusters. And these are all the local superclusters in our area. And yet again, you see that arrow points that small area that we're at. That small area that our entire Virgo supercluster is at. There we are right there pointing at it. And that arrow, just microscopic. I don't even know how to explain to you how small to scale that little guy, 5'10", standing in the parking lot is. And there's one more thing. One more thing. I'm so excited. We're going to zoom out one final time. And this is not because this is it. This is because this is all we know. All we can figure out. Our smartest, our brightest, our best funded, our best technology, the years of research, the best we got. This is as much as we know. This is the knowable universe, the observable universe that we know about. And if you zoom out, you see that arrow, it's pointing to a speck. And that speck doesn't represent the guy, doesn't represent the Earth, doesn't represent the solar system or the neighborhood or the galaxy, the Milky Way galaxy or the galactic group or the supercluster. That speck represents our local supercluster. We're that small, and that's just the knowable universe. There's so much more that we don't even know. Like this quasar cluster we just found. There's so much out there we don't even know about. And so I say, this is how big our God is. Our God in Genesis 1:1, it says that God created the heavens and the earth. He didn't have to labor. He didn't have to work hard. He didn't have to strain himself. He spoke this into existence. This didn't exist before. This was his creativity. He's like, I think I'll make a quasar cluster. I think I'll make the solar system. I think I'll make the earth. This is kind of fun. Let's make some things. And he also says in the Bible, who are you going to compare me to? I don't know about you, but the universe is about as big as I can comprehend, and it's actually bigger than I can comprehend since we can't even figure the whole thing out. And yet, God created that with the simplest of ease. And so I hope you've enjoyed this video, but I hope more importantly that you really think about your God, the God of the Bible. Whether you say He is your God or not, He created you. And you have a destiny, and you have an eternity, and that eternity is going to be decided by what you decide to do with Him, and whether or not you accept the gift of Christ's love. Think about this. God created all of this stuff. And think about how we're a speck of 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 a speck, and probably more specks. And yet, out of all that, God cares about us so much that He sent His Son to the earth to be butchered on a cross to pay for our sins because He loved us that much. So the question is, what are you going to do with that?